Begin by cutting your dream hip line. Mark out the front area as shown, then along the same point, mark out the bum area as shown. You're going to split this into two based on the hip line, and then curve out one end like you would if you are doing a buzz cut. Now extend the curve in such a way that it matches the length of the straight side. That's what I've done there, and then you have a new curve. With this, you now have 1, 2, and 3. So this is what we're going to use to cut out the breast pad. That's what it's called here. I don't know what it's called where you are, but it's the breast pad. And then you're going to use your industrial machine to sew zigzag stitches. I'll put them together. Once this is done, you're going to take this and place on your lining. So your padding should be attached to the lining part of your dress. You place it at the correct point. As you can see, it's along the hip line based on the arrangement you did in the first picture of this video. Set the hip line like that and then sew it round with zigzag stitches as well. Before putting the zigzag stitches, I decided to fill with a little bit of tulle. I'm not going for a very heavy look. I want something that looks a little bit natural, something that will fill up my hip dips and make my hip look a little bit higher. That's what I was going for here. So with this, I'll be able to achieve that. So I just stuffed it and arranged it inside properly. There is another way to get this done, because this net can move, guys, and then you have a funny looking hip. But if you want something that will not move, you don't want to feel it like this, you want to feel it a different way so that it won't move, there is another method which I will cover on the Sew Support exclusive community. If you're interested, you can click the link that is beneath this video and it's directed to me on Telegram so that I can tell you how to join the community. But basically what I used here was tulle. That's what I used. I'm going for a very light feeling, very light. Like I told you, my goal is to hide my hip dips and lift my hip line, because I have a very low hip. That's like when I say hip line or hip length, that's waistline to hip line. Mine is or in normal day, mine is about 12. If I'm being fair, if I start from my actual waistline, it's about 12. That's really low. So this is going to lift it up and at the same time hide my hip dips. Because when I was cutting my dream hip line, like I stated in the beginning of the video, I used 9.5 as my hip length because that's what I want. So yeah, that's it basically. I'm going to take this now and sew it down with zigzag stitches. Another thing to take note of is the fact that every lady has a different shape. So you have to take into account your customer's bum shape, the hip shape, the hip position, the hip shape, and all that before deciding on what adjustments to make your client's hip look fuller and at the same time not obvious that it was padded. I hope we're together. As I told you, for mine the goal was hide my hip dips and lift my hip and my bum. So you look at your client and you know what they need to give them that figure 8 shape. If you just take this, copy and paste on your client, it will work for some, it won't work for some. I would suggest, like I always do, that you join the exclusive community so you can get to talk to me one-on-one and even show me your pattern so that I can tell you what works for the particular client you're dealing with. You must have noticed that I did this open. That's because the zip line was not sewn together. So now that I'm done with the hip padding, I am going to sew the zip line together and then come back and show you what it looks like on me before putting the lace over it. Okay, as you can see, the mission has been accomplished. So I'm going to really need to run the zigzag line again because I can see one is already pulling off. Well, you can clearly see that my hip dips are hidden. My hip line is now higher, not as low as it usually is, which you're about to see at the end of the video. And my bum is also higher as well, as you can see. So that's it, basically. As bum, this is the hip line. Are you seeing how natural it looks when I move? And then you have our before and after. So as you can see my very low hip line and see what it looks like now. So that's it. Okay, over to B. If you don't know what we mean by A and B, you're probably not on Instagram with Sew Support. So you can join us on Instagram. Just search for Sew Support on Instagram when you find us. There was a poll that was done, and funny enough, almost everyone selected A and B. So here is B. Okay, so what I did to get structure without boning can be summed up in just two things. One, for the under bust height, I used the measurement from the side, not over the bust. That was what I used to measure my under bust height. What that does is give me enough space from under the bust. Why are you laughing at me? Sorry, give me enough space from under the bust to the waistline. If you look at that picture, you see that there is about 4 inches below the bust. That is because I did not use the under bust height measurement from shoulder to under the bust, above the bust. I didn't follow the curve. I took it from the side. So that gives me a shorter bust space and at the same time a longer basque. If you are running yours this way, that is, you are choosing to use the first option of the under bust height, which I just showed you, then you should be adding 1 inch to your regular cup depth, because the cup has to be deep enough to take up your customer's bust. So if the regular cup depth is 3 inches, for example, you should be using 4. If it's 2, you should be using 3. If it's 2.5, you should be using 3.5, just like that, so that it is deep enough to carry your client's bust and lift it. This is going to have a push-up effect, and at the same time the basque is long enough to give it that structure and that beauty without boning. The second thing I did was to use a thick satin. If you look up there, you see that I have an orange have a burnt orange satin up there that I used for the details on this dress. That satin is very, very thick. It is thick, it is firm, and that's what I use to do the under bust area and the back, as you see in the concluding design, or you may have already seen on Instagram. So that's number 2. Use a firm fabric. If you don't have a firm fabric, then use interfacing to make it firm, or you can double the fabric. If it has a bit of firmness but you need extra thickness, you can double it too. Those are your options, basically. Those are the 2 extra things I did, or the 2 unusual things I did for these outfits to give it that look.